Hi, it's Bumble. Welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to do this video the day that I had watched the movie, which for me was yesterday. But then by the time I got back home, because I actually went to a movie theater for this, which feels weird. I used to go to the movies like a lot when I was younger, and I haven't been to the movies in like a year when I went to go see Wicked Part 1, as we'll call it, because it was originally just called Wicked, but now you have like Wicked and then you have Wicked for Good, and it makes the titles a little confusing. And I went with the same friend too. I originally went with like a group of people, but then this time I just went with one person because we were the ones in the group that were like super duper into like Wicked and stuff. But I do want to see some of those other friends too, hopefully soon. But yeah, this was pretty good. I was kind of worried. Okay, because let me start off by saying I've seen the stage musical, so like I knew what was gonna happen and who certain characters' identities are supposed to be that get like revealed in this movie and stuff. Oh yeah, I'm gonna I know I always kind of say this anyway, but I will put it in the title if I remember. I'm gonna be spoiling stuff in this movie. I mean, I know I always do that in my movie reviews, but this movie, I think, came out late November. I'm like a week late on this. Let me actually check my calendar. Yeah, I'm recording this December 6th, and then the movie came out, I think, on like the 21st. So it's been like about a week, and the reason I waited that long was because, when this thing came out, it was like Thanksgiving week, basically, and then I had relatives in town, and there was all this other stuff going on, and I thought, like, yeah, I want to get through all this stuff and then be able to relax with this movie, and then my friend was available and stuff. And also, I don't really like to go to movies the week that they come out. I feel like this, even if I had seen it like immediately, I probably would have waited a little bit to post a review anyway. To like, I mean, I know I'm going to mark this as spoilers, but also like, to give people a chance to see it and then start watching the review stuff. I wasn't in a rush to see this movie because, like, I've seen the stage musical. That was probably, like, when I was in high school, though, so it's been a number of years on that. So it's, like, I remember a lot of the plot important things, but I don't remember everything. So it was kind of nice in that sense. And plus, they added, like, new stuff to this. Like, there's 2 new songs, which I'm gonna have to talk about. And, like, other scenes. And, like, the whole pacing of it being, like, a movie and everything, where you can slow things down because it's a movie compared to something being on stage. So I wasn't in a rush to see this. With the first part, I absolutely was. I was so freaking hyped. I didn't shut up about the movie, and then I finally got to watch it and I loved it. Because I think the first act of Wicked is really fun, and especially once I watched it in a movie format, I realized, yeah, this kind of is like a standalone. Like, obviously it ends on like a cliffhanger of like Elphaba is like public enemy number 1 and she ends up leaving, and Glinda becomes like Madame Morrible's what's the right word, like public representative or whatever, she's like the new face of Oz, even though she doesn't really have any power at this point. So it ends with that, where you like want to know what's going to happen next, even though I didn't have that feeling because I already knew what was going to happen. Yeah, I was excited to see it. I actually saw it 4 times, with the 4th time being like the day before that I watched this, because I try to do movie prep. Like when I originally saw part 1, I rewatched The Wizard of Oz, which I feel like I should have done that before watching this one too, just because in my mind, I think I wanted to remember like exactly what some of the characters looked like and stuff, to kind of compare it in my brain. I'll talk about that in a bit. But instead what I did is I rewatched Wicked Part 1 because, and I had to explain this to some of my like family and friends, where they're like, oh, you're gonna go see the second one, how is it? And I'm like, it's not the second one, it's just the second half. It's not like a sequel or anything, because it's just one long story divided into like 5 hours, like 2 movies and stuff. So hold on, give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. I thought I was having like a nosebleed. My face felt wet, but it wasn't blood. We're good. I know that was a little TMI. I'm sorry. I feel bad because I've been doing all these movie reviews the past week because I'm watching so many and I keep having to pause for various different reasons during the reviews. What was I saying? Yeah. So I watched part one before this, and that was nice because it was my fourth time seeing it, so I remembered how things go. But there was, I think, just the stuff at the beginning with like Elphaba's childhood. I'd forgotten like that entire section of the movie, and about there's one part from the beginning I'm really glad I got to watch again, and it's the part when the dad ends up leaving, and then the mom has this guy come over where they're drinking the bottle, getting sexual and whatever, especially because the movie shows that scene again when the person's identity is revealed and stuff. So I was trying to pay attention for more. I mean, I already knew who the person was, but I was trying to pay attention for more stuff like that with the first part. So that was helpful to rewatch it. And then what I did, which I'm also glad I did, I got spoiled in like a lot of things about the movie beforehand. That was my fault for even getting on Twitter, because I kept seeing pictures that people were taking of like specific characters. So I kind of already knew what some things looked like. But something I am glad I did read was people were saying when they went to watch For Good that they wish they listened to the music beforehand to kind of figure out if they liked it or not. So that's what I did. I finished the part one. It was like 10:30. I laid in bed and then I just sat there with Spotify and I listened to all the music, or as much as I could with a free account. And I'm really glad I did that, because I feel like when you're watching anything like a movie or show, whatever, for the first time, especially if it's like a musical, you're like trying to absorb everything that's happening, and that's kind of what you're focused on. So you end up missing like details in the background or things you'd only catch in a second viewing. Or if it's like a musical, even, you're trying to absorb the story as well, and you're just being hit in the face with all these musical numbers. And it's like with just regular songs too. You listen to something and you're not always sure if you like it or not the first time. At least I feel that way. So I listened to almost all of them on Spotify, except for one of them, thank goodness, not thank goodness, couldn't be happier, because I keep hearing, oh my gosh, can I talk about the marketing for this movie for a second? There were so many commercials on TV about this movie. There was a bunch for the first act too, but I feel like they were hammering it in like even more. There's like freaking collaborations for everything. I swear I went to the store and even saw like Wicked themed like dish soap or some shit. But I remember with the commercials, they always had a little bit of the song Couldn't Be Happier playing in there for some reason. And the commercials for the movie were very short, the like trailers and whatever. But I wouldn't even be watching TV and I'd hear it. Like I would be upstairs and I'd be like playing my Switch or something, and my parents are always watch stuff on like TV at night or on streaming or whatever, so I would just be like minding my own business and I'd still be able to hear it and recognize it immediately. So by the time it was the day before I was going to see the movie, I was already kind of sick of the song. And then I also skipped Wonderful as well, because that one was also in the trailers, but mostly because I actually really like that song. You'll hear me talk more about the songs in a bit. But yeah, I was trying to avoid anything I'd overheard, over and over in the trailers. But yeah, I'm glad that I listened to everything, because I liked a lot of them actually. And there was like one song where I actually changed opinions on it the second time I heard it, like when I watched the movie, where the first time, and I'll talk about that in a while. I'm trying to decide right now if I want to talk about plot and characters or songs. I'll talk about plot and characters first. But there was one specific song that I didn't like it the first time I heard it. I was kind of disappointed. And then I heard it in the movie and I was kind of, it wasn't even just, you know how songs can be improved if like you're like listening to them while you're watching and you're like getting them in the context of the story and actually seeing the full scene and everything. It wasn't that made me change my opinion, but it was just being able to hear the song again and like really being able to focus on it, and I was like, oh, okay, I think I actually kind of like this. So it's for reasons like that I'm glad I actually listened to the songs beforehand. I try not to do that with musicals, whether I'm going to see them on a stage or like a movie, because I feel like that's the fun of watching something for the first time, is you get to experience them like as you're watching in the context of the story, or even just it's like a fun little surprise in there of like, hey, you get all these cool songs you get to wonder about and whatever. And also because like titles for songs, not just for musicals, even for like video games and stuff too, can like literally be spoilers for stuff, especially if it's like related to a character's death or whatever. I accidentally I have Spotify open on my phone so I could remember the song titles, and I accidentally started one of them. But yeah, I'm glad I did that. I recommend that if you, I don't know if anyone's watching this, even though I put spoilers, that hasn't seen the movie yet. You know, some people watch movie reviews for movies they don't care about or aren't going to see. I do the same thing. But I recommend, if you're going to see this movie, yeah, listen, even if you're not really like a fan of musicals or whatever, and you're just here for like the story or something, listen to the songs first and kind of, I don't know, get like an opinion of it or whatever, and then, you know, watch the movie. And I feel like it kind of helps with the songs. Okay, I want to talk about like the movie itself. I think I want to do music last because I don't have much to say on that actually. Let's see. I hope, because I was actually surprised when I watched Wicked Part 1 and it was like amazing and I loved it and a lot of other people really liked it, and it was, you know, like this big cultural thing. We were like, it was like the movie everyone was like talking about at the time. And then I watched the like Oscars and the other award shows, and I don't remember the movie getting that many awards. I don't know if it's going to be different for this year, which is also the reason I'm like posting this like the day I'm recording it, because I think the Oscars and stuff are all in like spring anyway. Hold on a second. I had to sneeze. It's cold in here. Yeah, I don't know if this movie's gonna get any awards. I hope at least, you know, the actresses playing the two leads get some awards. I thought they both did a really good job. You know, it's kind of funny because I feel like from what I've heard, like as the first movie was coming out, where, you know, people like knew a lot about Ariana Grande, and it was really only like musical theater people and stuff that like knew Cynthia Erivo. And for me it was the opposite, where like I'd watched that Pinocchio live action thing where she was the blue fairy, and I heard her sing and I was like, oh my gosh, this woman's voice is amazing. So I was like hyped for her to be in this, and I already like knew who she was, and I knew who Ariana Grande was too. I like grew up watching her on Nickelodeon and stuff, but I didn't really listen to her music or know about like her music career. So she was the one where I'm like, is it gonna go okay? But you know what, I thought they both did like a great job and stuff. I don't know if Ariana Grande is gonna go down like the singer turned movie star path or what she's gonna do after this, but even if this is like the one movie she'd like be in or whatever, I'm fine with that. I thought she did great. I mean, it also helps that like she's like a super big Wicked fan from what I've heard, so I knew, you know, like Glinda would be safe in her hands and stuff. And I like that her character becomes like more of a main, kind of feels more like the main character of the second movie to me, honestly. You know, I was hearing some things of people saying like Elphaba, I want to go back to the award thing, but I'll get to that later. I had like a specific point with that I'm gonna make. People were saying like Elphaba in the second movie didn't do much for the animals, and Glinda was the one that ended up like kind of saving everybody at the end, which I mean, that's true. It's kind of funny how fast she kind of gets rid of the wizard and Madame Marble. It's like two very short scenes at the end, and then they're both just gone. But I get that couldn't happen earlier in the story because it started with like her figuring out like, you know, the wizard is like Elphaba's dad, and Elphaba needed to like quote unquote die for him to have the realization of like, oh shit, I killed my biological daughter, because this whole thing is like, you know, he wants to be like a paternal figure, he wants to be a dad, and I feel like that's the thing that like messes him up, you know, because like I don't think the Munchkins or the other Ozians or whatever find out about like his lies and stuff. I think it's just like the wizard suddenly has to like leave, and I'm assuming that's to like tie back into the Wizard of Oz, where it's like Dorothy's going home, so the wizard's gonna go home too or something. I that's why I said I should have watched the Wizard of Oz before watching this, to like, especially because like Dorothy's part of the plot now. I will talk about Dorothy as well. And then with Madame Morrible, and then the wizard leaves, and then Glinda goes to confront Madame Morrible, which was such a nice scene because Madame Morrible was like horrible to Glinda, but especially in this movie of putting her in her place, of being like, yeah, you're just a political puppet or whatever, I know you don't have power, and then Glinda getting to turn the tables on her, even like using some of her phrases from like the earlier movie and stuff. And I mean, Glinda at that point has like the monkeys literally just take Madame Morrible away out the window or whatever, so here she at least like has some backup. So it like takes a lot of things, but mostly like faking Elphaba's death and stuff to get these two like out of charge. But it's still funny to me just like how smoothly and like easily it went down. They don't even try to fight back, I think, because they've realized they've lost at this point. And even though like the people of Oz won't know any of the like horrible things they did or whatever, they'll know what they've done, you know, and being kicked out. And I don't know what happens to the wizard afterwards, he goes back to I guess just like normal Earth or whatever. I'm assuming Oz is like a different, not like a different planet or whatever, but you know, like different location, it's its own like world or whatever. But I mean, Elphaba does like do stuff. I don't know, it felt kind of weird to me. I'm thinking about the scene where the animals are trying to like go under the yellow brick road, and she sings that song. I'll talk about it more when I talk about the songs, about why she doesn't want to leave Oz, and she's trying to get them to like join her to fight. But I mean, she's barely able to do anything. Like every time she makes an attempt to do anything, it gets twisted in some way against her. So I can like completely understand why the animals, because I mean at that point they're already being like put in cages, they're already being like taken out of power, like all the, especially like the ones that are educated, like Dr. Dilliman, were already like being put in cages like earlier in the like other movie and stuff. So they're trying to like get the hell out of Oz while they can. I feel like it makes sense, because I'm not sure like what they would be able to do even if they joined with Elphaba anyway. And so I mean, they do completely wreck the wedding and the wedding scene and stuff, but that's kind of about it. Because I mean, Elphaba does try to do some stuff like the skywriting thing, which then it's, I mean, I get why she picked the sky where it's like everyone would be able to see it, and then Morrible just like happens to be there and messes up the words or whatever, because that's like the real thing where they're just able to like turn everything against her without having to do much. It almost makes me wish that like in the first movie, Elphaba, like I understand she's upset, and yeah, I wouldn't want to like join the wizard either if I found out all the bullshit he was doing, but I feel like she probably would have had a better chance of like kind of doing what Glinda was doing. I mean, Glinda was kind of being complacent and was enjoying like the spotlight, and it takes her until like late into the second movie to be able to be like, okay, I want to finally stand against the people in charge now, and by then it's like almost a bit too late. But she was someone, like she talks about it in the popular song and everything, and the wizard mentioning about like how the Munchkins and the other Ozians don't care about like facts or reason. It's just about like they want to believe what they want to believe. It's all like the politics are like a popularity contest basically, where it doesn't matter if Elphaba's right or whatever. If they hate her, they're not gonna listen to her and stuff. So I feel like if she joined Glinda and they like worked to get like pretending to help the wizard or something, and like if they worked together behind the scenes and make Elphaba like someone the people can like trust as well, and then trying to basically taking down like the government from the inside, I feel like it probably would have worked better and there would have been like less casualties. It probably wouldn't have spiraled as hard as it would have, or maybe even trying to get help from her sister as well, because I know like she does try to do that where she goes to Nessa and then Nessa's like, nope, you abandoned me, I'm not gonna help you and whatever, because even as like governor you still have power as well. But I get why it kind of goes the way it does. That's why it does kind of make it sad when you do get to the song Wonderful and Glinda and the Wizard are like trying to give Elphaba a second chance to join them, which I really did like the inclusion of Glinda in that. I thought that was like a good change for the movie, because like Elphaba was already like pissed at the wizard and stuff, but like Glinda at that point, like they haven't even had their like cat fight in the Yellow Brick Road yet, so they're still like besties and stuff, so having someone that Elphaba trusts there to try to kind of lure her in and stuff, and she does agree to the deal until she finds the cages. Like it seemed like it would have gone fine. I think it would have been kind of funny if like the movie just ended there where she's like, yeah, I'll join your guys' team, and then it like cuts to the credits or whatever. I want to talk about that sequence. I want to talk about like specific musical sequences, but like I want to talk about that with the songs. I did like Elphaba. I want to just keep talking about her for a bit. Her hideout in the forest, I was surprised it was a forest though. I remember it like originally being a swamp or something, which I was thinking about. It was kind of funny when she has the sex scene with Fiyero, where I'm thinking about it with the swamp and I'm like, it probably smelled like so much worse or whatever. But her little forest hideout is actually really cool, where it's just like a giant tree. Like for hiding out in like the middle of the woods, it doesn't really look half bad. I did think it was kind of a weird decision of like, you have all this space inside of that tree, why is your bed just outside somewhere? That doesn't sound like comfy or anything. But I like that we get to see her there sometimes if she's doing like magic stuff with the Grimmery, or I liked her little board or whatever, a cork board thing of like all the posters and her plans and stuff, because she is trying during the whole like time gap between the movies and stuff. It makes me feel bad for her, because she just thinks like if she can like bring down the wizard, everyone will, or like expose him, everyone will listen to her, and then being kind of told throughout the movie of like, yeah, that probably wouldn't even work anyway. Like the people love Glinda so much and she doesn't even have any real power. It really is just like the you gotta fake your abilities and stuff, with like the magic bubble. I actually do like that they explained the bubble and everything, because I didn't even realize when I was watching it the first time that it was like a contraption. I didn't remember that she didn't have magic or anything, so even like I was fooled with that. I was thinking about that throughout the movie, especially, and I like that they added it, the Glinda's like childhood birthday party scene, where I feel like with the way she especially talks to her mom and how unhappy she is about the magic thing, explains like a lot about how she develops when she gets older and stuff, where she actually isn't upset about the not being able to do magic thing. I mean, of course she is, but it's more of like she had to take credit for the rainbow even though she knows she didn't do anything, and feeling bad about that, of basically like having to fake it and sort of put on a performance in a sense. And then I'm still thinking about the conversation with her mom, where her mom is saying something about like you have to like keep smiling and whatever, and you have everything, why are you so unhappy? Or even like when she's probably like 8 or something in that flashback where, you know, you see that she's had to live her whole life of like having to pretend to be happy and that everything's perfect or whatever, but like deep down knowing she's like a magic fraud and stuff, and that people only like her for being like pretty and popular. And then Morrible really like slams it in her face later on in the movie of like, you just need to smile and wave and shut up and whatever. And I noticed that like Linda looks so hurt, and if that flashback, the childhood thing, wasn't there, I would have just thought like, oh yeah, this woman's like screaming in her face and making her feel bad. Of course she'd feel bad, but it probably hits harder for her hearing that, you know, because that's what's been expected of her like her whole life. But at the same time, that's why Girl in the Bubble, it's weird for me. I don't know. I guess I can talk about music a bit now too. I just want to specifically talk about that one right now, because that was the song when I said like there was one I didn't like and then I did. Like vocally, I'm fine with it. It's kind of weird though, because it's supposed to be, you know, how like Cynthia Erivo, especially in the first movie, has so many of these big like power solos and everything. She gets like so many solos, but Glinda doesn't really have anything. I mean, I guess her song is like popular, but that's not really about her as a character. I mean, it is, but here she gets like her solo moment to shine and stuff, which is cool, you know. It like, I understand the placement in the story as well, where she's seeing that everything's kind of going to shit, you know, people are literally outside her door yelling about like wanting Elphaba dead, and then she gets that one specific look from Bach as the Tin Man that like kind of disturbs her a bit. So then it's kind of the point where she's like, okay, I can't keep living in the bubble anymore, and then she decides to finally, you know, help everyone else and stuff. But it also does feel kind of weird where she's like also kind of complaining about how hard her life is, but she's been like the rich kid that's gotten everything since the beginning. Like, I'm thinking back even with the first movie where she at one point tells her friends, I think was one of her confrontations with Elphaba, of like, oh, this hasn't happened before, I've always gotten my way. So because she has that background, I mean, I know that like kids that grow up rich and stuff can turn out to be like normal and nice and whatever, but she was so kind of just bitchy and self-centered in the first movie that it's kind of, and the fact that she just kind of stayed like that for like most of her life, you know, and not just really with like having those resources, but also the fact that everyone else is like struggling super hard at that point. Like, everybody literally wants to kill Elphaba, and then at that point in the story, you know, the transformations for two of Dorothy's friends have like already happened. Like, they're screwed for life basically. And Glinda just gets to like, you know, literally chill in a bubble where she, you know, doesn't have to be a part of any of this stuff. So it does feel a little weird where it's you almost want to ask like, everyone has it so much worse than you, what do you have to complain about? But she's also like a complex character where you do get to see her struggles, and it is like a valid thing. I don't know, I like her as a character. I mean, I already did, but I think I've kind of come to appreciate her more with like the second act. Like I said, it's been a bit since I've seen the stage musical, so I didn't really like Act 2 originally because it was so rushed, and that was like my biggest worry with this one, and why I wasn't in a hurry to see it, where I thought like, oh, it's gonna, you know, plus it's I think like an hour less than the first one. I mean, there's less story to tell, you know, but I was worried about it. And then, at least in my opinion, I thought it was fine. Like, it had enough room to breathe and stuff. There's some characters I wish maybe could have gotten like more screen time or other things, and there's some deleted scenes I've seen as well that I kind of wish were added back in. Like, I don't remember which movie it was for, probably the first one, where there's this one deleted scene where Bach and Elphaba get to like talk to each other, and I feel like that something like that could have been added in, especially because there's a part when Elphaba goes to see Nessa and Bach is there and is like afraid of Elphaba, and she's saying like, Bach, it's me. Like, I forgot that like so many of these characters, like, back when they were at Shiz, they were all like college friends. You'd get to see them together sometimes. There's this one little scene they show, I don't remember what part of the movie, is supposed to be like a flashback thing, but it's like a very brief thing where it's like some of the group, like Fiyero, Elphaba, Glinda, Nessa, Bach, I think that's pretty much the whole group, and they're like hanging out in that like poppy field or whatever. That would have been cool if it was an actual scene, but I understand that it's not like necessary. It's still nice to see that little blip though, of that, hey, they were all like getting along and were like a group and stuff, and then seeing the tragedies that happen for everyone, and how two of them are like like one of them is like dead, two of them are basically immortal, and then Glinda is probably going to be just depressed for like the rest of her life, thinking her best friend is dead. Oh yeah, I was wondering if they changed that a little bit. I gotta talk about that too. There's so many things I know this is already half an hour. I feel like I have to talk about. But yeah, talking about the two leads was like my first party. I mentioned about the awards thing. I want to go back to that. I hope this movie, I'm sorry. I hope this movie gets an award for makeup, if it gets like any kind of award, because I thought it was great. Specifically the makeup for the Tin Man, that was honestly so cool, where it looks like it could be like CGI or something. Especially because I was thinking about it where Bach shows up to that scene where he's carrying the tin set, and as soon as I saw that, they show him with the axe earlier too, but as soon as I saw the tin set, because I didn't remember when in the story he gets like turned into the Tin Man, I was like, oh okay, it's happening soon, it's probably happening in that scene. I didn't remember like how it worked, or if it was the same in the musical where, in the movie he when his heart like literally shrinks, which sounds terrifying. I'm surprised it wasn't in the form of like a heart attack type thing, and then the tin from the tea set seems to like literally fuse with his body or whatever, and then he pops out through the door where he's like literally chopping it down or something, which is crazy. And then you get to see him, and oh my gosh, the makeup looked so good though. I keep wondering about the nose though. That was the one part I thought that looked kind of weird. It looked like it had like a black hole or something at the tip. That's kind of the real reason I wanted to rewatch The Wizard of Oz, was to like compare the designs and like makeup and stuff between the movies to see like how accurate it is to the 30s one. And then with the Scarecrow, oh man, with the Scarecrow, I actually thought he was going to be revealed earlier on, but then once it's shown at the end of the story and stuff, I realized like, oh okay, that's why you don't get to see it that early. Narratively it made sense for me in that moment. That was one of the big things I was spoiled about, which now I think I kind of understand a bit more, because I thought that was Jonathan Bailey as the Scarecrow at the end when he's like talking to Elphaba. But then my friend told me, we were talking about the movie afterwards, that it was actually a different actor where the voice was just dubbed over. I feel like that makes a lot more sense, because the big thing I was like seeing on Twitter and stuff was people making fun of the makeup, and also saying that, which I didn't actually realize it was like, or I think it was like a mask, actually. I wasn't sure if from the pictures I'd been seeing, which were just pictures people were taking in the theater, if it was like CGI or makeup, but I think it's actually like a mask or something. And I feel bad because like when you see like close-up pictures of it and stuff that aren't in the movie, it looks freaking great and everything. You can really just see like the texture of it in the face, and I like the detail of the eyebrows and the hair. Like, I remember that the hair became like straw or something, but I didn't remember with the eyebrows. I thought that was cool. But people were comparing him to Ryan Reynolds, which I thought was really funny, to the point where I fully expected to get to that scene myself when I watched the movie, and I thought I was going to laugh. And I mean, he did look like Ryan Reynolds, but I didn't end up laughing or anything. That was the other thing too. I thought I was going to cry at the end of the movie, and then I didn't, but I think that was because I listened to For Good, before I went to watch it. Anyway, back to the Scarecrow makeup thing. I wonder if Jonathan Bailey was there in that part, if he still would have, in the Scarecrow makeup, had looked like Ryan Reynolds. I'm just going to keep thinking about that. I don't even know. I need to Google that, actually, who the actor for that part, actually was and everything. But I feel like that's probably why the Ryan Reynolds thing makes more sense. But like, jokes aside, the Scarecrow also looks good. The one thing I need to go back and look at, though, is I remember seeing pictures of like the one from the 30s, from The Wizard of Oz, and I remember the nose being like a different color, like it was like a triangle, kind of like the Animal Crossing noses. I don't remember if that was a thing in this one, and if it wasn't, I'm a little disappointed, because I feel like that was like a nice part of the design where, everything's kind of the same color, and that like sack head texture and everything's very similar colors, that the nose was like the thing that stood out, but I have to see, so I don't know on that. But anyway, the makeup for those two in particular, of course, like the costumes and everything is good too. I really especially like Glinda's dresses, and I was but I hope it gets an award for makeup. But back to the dresses thing, I was kind of a little disappointed with the amount of pink dresses in the first movie, because in the stage musical, Glinda has a bunch of different colors that she wears. Like when she shows up in the bubble at like the very beginning of the musical, she wears this like light blue dress that I always thought was really pretty. And then I don't remember like every single one of her outfits, but I remember when they go to the Emerald City, her and Elphaba, to like go meet the wizard and stuff, she has like this yellow kind of sundress, and I think like sunglasses as well, if I remember right. And I thought that was really fun, especially because by the end I don't remember if she actually wears the pink at the end, but that could have been cool, of like she's finally got the iconic outfit and everything. And then in this movie, I mean, in the first one, she wears like pink the whole time, and then she finally gets a different color in this one where she wears blue, and then at the end of the movie she's back to pink. And I thought that was weird at first until I saw like her final outfit where she's back in the pink dress, which I mean she'd have to be because that's the one we saw at the beginning. But I was thinking about it, I'm like, why does she only change colors for like a specific part of the movie? And I realized that's the portion where and it's for like most of the movie too, when she's like sort of under the control of like Morrible and the wizard. And I think Madame Morrible's even the one that like picks out the dress or the colors for Glinda at that point, if I remember right. I mean, okay, wait, I'm forgetting the one other thing she has to wear is the white wedding dress. I forgot about that. Yeah, I feel like maybe the blue, and I feel like the colors of it, but also the patterns, are probably supposed to be related to like she isn't getting to pick her own things and whatever, because then by the end, once she puts the two of them out of power and stuff, she's finally wearing like the pink dress, like she gets to be herself again. And if you think about it that way, then I understand the decision, and I think it's kind of cool. I mean, I do miss the different colors with like the first movie. I feel like they still could have like been in there, but the costumes and stuff in this one with that mindset, I feel like makes sense, and I kind of actually even appreciate that a little more. I thought the wedding dress was cool too. I expected it to be like a little more fancy because it was like the big royal wedding. I actually felt so bad for Glinda in the wedding scene where she the animals show up and they ruin her wedding. And I mean, to the audience, it's like very obvious that like Fiyero isn't interested in her. Besides that, we already know that he's interested in Elphaba instead. He just seems like very distant from Glinda. She even mentions that at like the train scene in the first movie as well. But then, the animals show up to her wedding, and then Fiyero holds like a gun to her and then leaves with Elphaba, and that's when Glinda figures out of like, oh shit, you guys are actually a couple. And then you get to see her at the destroyed wedding, and she's like sobbing her eyes out, and that's like the thing that kind of briefly turns her against Elphaba, and kind of giving up the thing about Nessa to the wizard and everything. But I felt so bad for her in the part where she's just like sobbing her eyes out at that wedding. Just the fact that she didn't know, like, I mean, it was kind of weird. She immediately wants like kind of ownership of Fiyero in a sense of like getting engaged and not telling him and whatever, and he ends up going through with it because like they're friends and stuff, whatever. But yeah, I felt bad for her at that point of like, she did think that he was in love with her, and then Elphaba even tells her later when they're fighting of like, yeah, he never loved you, and it's just like, whoa, okay, he didn't need to go that far. I mean, I think that's true. Like, they were originally both like very shallow and stuff. Like, he went to the dance with her and everything, so I could see why she thought, you know, they were like lovers and stuff. I actually thought it was sort of nice in a way where he's just like, yeah, if it makes you happy, I'll marry you, even though like his heart's not into it and stuff. And they do like remain friends throughout the whole movie and stuff, Glinda and Fiyero, where like, I remember at the wedding scene when the animals are coming through, he's like trying to get her to safety, and then when he gets taken away by the guards right before he gets like beaten to death and stuff, he apologizes to her probably for, you know, pretending to marry her and whatever. What else? I feel like there's so many things, but I'm like not thinking about them right now. I think part of the reason Act 2 is also hard for me to watch is the stuff with like Bach and Nessa, but especially Nessa, because that's when she ends up in more of the villainous role and stuff. I don't know who the actress is that plays Nessa, but I almost wish that she had, or not almost wish, I do wish that she had like more screen time or more stuff to sing. I mean, I know they're following with the songs that already exist and stuff, but she sounds great, and I feel like we don't get to hear her sing much or anything. Like, she has one song and it's like very short and stuff, but man, it's hard for me to even feel sorry for that character like in the first act too, where I mean, I do feel bad for her with the whole thing of like Bach stringing her along and not telling him about like how he likes Glinda and stuff, and you almost have like a hope point when they're at the dance and he's like, you know what, screw it, let's go dance together, and it's like the happiest night of her life and stuff, where it seems like, oh, okay, maybe he is gonna actually like date her, but no, he's like interested in Glinda the whole time. But no, the thing that always bothered me about Nessa is like, even with the first movie at the beginning when like her and Elphaba are going to the school and stuff, she never defends her sister or anything, not even from like their dad or the other kids or anything. Like, she has eyes, she can see that Elphaba's like getting bullied and stuff. And then when their dad dies, and in this one, and Elphaba's saying like, yeah, I didn't go to his funeral because he hated me, and Nessa says something like, that's a horrible thing to say, that's not true. Like, does she even realize like how her dad was treating her sister or anything? And then just her whole thing where she's like, why weren't you there for me? Like, I understand like losing a relative, you would want to connect back more with your family and stuff, and I can like completely understand that like she lost her dad suddenly from like the embarrassment of Elphaba stuff, and then, you know, then she has to become governor and she doesn't really have anyone except for Bach at that point. So I can understand at that point she wants her sister, but it's like the way she says it, where she's like, you abandoned me, why weren't you here? And Elphaba's like, you've never wanted my help, and Nessa says something like, well, I want it now. And then the whole thing with like, she gets the shoes to fly, which I thought that was interesting, because I know with like the copyright stuff or whatever, where they can't use the red shoes, they can't use Dorothy's face. Actually, the Dorothy's face thing I found out as I was watching the movie. My friend mentioned it to me. I'll talk about that in a bit. But the shoe thing, the way they got around it was kind of interesting, where, I mean, earlier in the movie during Popular, you see, I mean, the other movie, Glinda, pick out a pair of red shoes and tap them together 3 times as like a little wink wink nudge nudge there. But then the part when Nessa, the shoes change and she has the spell, which I thought that was an interesting choice. I actually liked that, where from what I remember with the stage musical, she gets the ability to like walk, and then in this one she gets the ability to fly. And I feel like that fits more, like especially what she was saying of like she felt that she was like lighter than air or whatever. And I feel like that's like a more kind of magical way of doing it and stuff, and how a lot of the spells seem to be taken very literally in the way they do. I just find the Grimoire interesting in that sense, where like Elphaba's constantly using it and doing magic, where she's like the only person who can read it, but then all of the spells except conveniently the one that makes her broom fly end up going horribly wrong, and she doesn't mean to, and like that's what gets villainized, where I'm almost thinking like just stop using the Grimoire at that point, if it's like fucking up your spells this bad or whatever. Like it's kind of funny to me that like her spell of like getting the broomstick, which I don't even think was her intention anyway, like the broomstick's able to work fine and everything goes great and she's unaffected by like magic stuff, but then for everybody else that gets to fly, they either get wings or, I mean, actually Nessa's thing was kind of cool, where she just gets to like float in the air, and I was wondering if like that spell eventually like wore off or whatever, because she just gets to float for that one scene, and then that's the opportunity where Bach decides to abandon her, which is like such a shitty move. But anyway, the shoes, you know, because they're the silver shoes and they actually like turn sort of red, where they're like, which I'm wondering about how that works, like they burn her feet or something and then she gets the ability to fly. I don't know if that was supposed to have like deeper meaning or anything, but I thought that was like a cool way to get around the shoe thing. And then she ends up cursing Bach, which I'm still confused about, because like Nessa's trying to read stuff out of the Grimoire, but Elphaba says something of like, oh, you're not pronouncing any of these words right, and it feels like that's hinted to be the thing of like why the spell goes wrong or whatever, because I don't think Elphaba tries to fix, I mean, I think she tries to, but I don't remember her actually reading anything. And I was wondering how it even worked at all, because I just assumed Nessa didn't have any magic. It just seemed like Elphaba was the only one, which I'm still kind of confused about her having magic. Like in the story they describe it as like, or in the movie, of like, oh, she's from both worlds and that's why she had magic, but like humans don't have magic. The wizard and Dorothy didn't have like any magic whatsoever. I mean, Dorothy's shoes were magic, but you know, that was because of like the spell or whatever. I just assumed Elphaba's magic was from like whatever the hell was in that like green bottle or whatever. You know, like not even Glinda has magic either. Like the magic just seems to come from the Grimoire. But I mean, Elphaba kind of already had it anyway, and so does Morrible. But anyway, I just assumed Nessa didn't have magical abilities, so I didn't know how she made it work. Like I assumed the spell went wrong because like no one seems to be able to read the Grimoire correctly. Like everyone's spell kind of goes wrong. But I'm guessing maybe it's like the magic that was in the shoes. I don't know. But then the Tin Man transformation was pretty cool, where we don't get to really see his face or anything. We just see like, it's kind of brief of like the tin latching onto his body. But then the part when he chops down with the axe to the door and like Nessa's terrified, and then Bach busts out there as like the Tin Man and everything and starts like freaking out on her. That was pretty tense. That was cool. And then she doesn't take responsibility for it, probably because she still wants him to love her. Or she wants him to love her, and then trying to blame Elphaba immediately. Because otherwise I feel like Bach would have just tried to like murder her on the spot at that point. You know, because he like wants to kill Elphaba from that point onward and everything. And then I don't think him and Nessa like ever talk again for like the rest of the musical. I almost wondered what like became of Bach as like the Tin Man, you know, once the story's done or whatever, because like the Scarecrow goes off with Elphaba, Dorothy goes home. I'm assuming the lion just goes back to the forest or whatever. But the Tin Man, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, Nessa's kind of frustrating, but like that's supposed to be the point. I feel like she's so quick to blame Elphaba too, and not take responsibility for things or whatever. It's probably also because like her dad spoiled the shit out of her and everything, with like, especially with like him being the governor. I mean, she does want to like do things by herself and stuff. It's not, I mean, besides like being in the chair, you know, she doesn't try to take advantage of her privilege of being like the governor's kid or anything, of like forcing people to do everything for her. If anything, she wants her independence. So I feel bad for her in like that sense, but yeah. But I mean, at the same time, I mean, Bach did deserve some kind of punishment for like stringing her along like that and everything. But I feel like the Tin Man thing, which was like an accident in the story, you know, was like a bit much. But man, Ethan Slater does such a good job as the Tin Man in this, because I feel like kind of just whatever about like him is like Bach in the first one. I mean, the character isn't like super important at that point in like the story and everything, but man, like once he's the Tin Man, he really sells that anger and everything, which the March of the witch hunters scene where he's there and he's yelling about like wanting to kill the witch and explaining the stuff about the cowardly lion or whatever, and then and I wish I wasn't spoiled about it because I kept seeing it on Twitter, where he gives this like glare to Glinda up in her tower and she looks kind of freaked out about it. I don't know if she even recognizes him at that point, or she's just like, why is this tin person glaring at me or whatever. That was so good. I thought he did a good job. I mean, everyone did good, but I'm like still thinking about that performance as well. Speaking of Dorothy's companions, that's part of the reason I almost wanted to watch The Wizard of Oz again, because that's interesting how it like gets kind of sewn back into this movie, because, you know, Wizard of Oz is like Dorothy's perspective and Wicked is like the perspective of everyone else. But I can't even just say it's like Elphaba's perspective or the other witches, because we get to see scenes without Elphaba or Glinda, and, you know, with it's like everyone else that lives in Oz, what are they going through? But yeah, the way the Wizard of Oz stuff in there is interesting. Like I said, I didn't know about they can't use Dorothy's face thing in this movie. I just thought that was a creative choice to be like, oh, it's not her story, you've already gotten her story, don't focus on her or anything. And I was gonna say, like, I thought that was a cool choice, but I guess that's what they were forced to do. But it made the camera perspectives interesting and stuff. Like, I liked the part when Dorothy gets abducted by the monkeys and you get to see her POV, where it's just her with her limbs out and she's screaming and her companions are like looking back at her or whatever. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up to see photos for the actors that like plays Dorothy. I wonder if it's like someone that actually looks, or at least like Judy Garland. I don't know, because I think Dorothy's like blonde in the books. I've actually been meaning to read those. I know I said that for Frankenstein as well. I need to read both of those, honestly. But yeah, I'm curious if she looks like Dorothy. I think I've seen the dolls, so I think she kind of does, you know, like Judy Garland's Dorothy. But I don't really know what to say of her performance, because we didn't really see her that much and she's not really in there, but I thought she did fine. I think it's funny that everyone saw the pictures of Toto on a leash and thought, you know, because that was changed for this adaptation, and everyone thought like, oh, it's going to be more of a plot point, like Elphaba's going to see that and get pissed because, you know, she's fighting for the rights of the animals. And then there was like nothing with that. Toto is just on a leash. I mean, if anything, it probably makes it easier for Dorothy, because, you know, Toto's not gonna like wander off. They don't know where they are. I mean, they're in Oz, but like they don't know what's gonna happen. She's meeting all these like magical creatures and stuff, which it's gonna be so weird watching Wizard of Oz. I mean, I know like Wicked isn't like canon to the Wizard of Oz. Wicked's basically like Wizard of Oz fan fiction pretty much, but it's still weird to go back to watch the Wizard of Oz, where you think like, yeah, like I remember when I watched it, you know, for the first time and stuff, and thinking like, yeah, she's this little girl, there's all these like magical people, and there's like a funny Tin Man and a guy that's like made out of straw. And I just assumed when I was younger, like all the people in Oz were like that, where they were like magic humanoids and there's like a talking lion and stuff. And then you get to Wicked and it's like, oh, some of those people aren't supposed to be like that. And then it's much worse with like, you know, Bach's heart shrinks and he gets turned into tin, and then Fiyero is like beaten within an inch of his life, and then gets turned into the Scarecrow is like the way to save him, basically. And he ends up being like thankful for that because he gets the chance to live. Like he knows that Elphaba is like trying to save him. I heard about with the Wicked book actually, which I have, but I don't want to read because I'm not really interested with some of the stuff. It's like darker and more sexual, and I had tried reading it before, and I just couldn't really get into it personally. But I've heard from that apparently like Fiyero does die, and Elphaba just thinks that the Scarecrow was him, and that Bok and like the Tin Man are supposed to be different characters or whatever. And I do kind of like that the Wicked musical, you know, took that and then decided to make those characters those Wizard of Oz characters. I almost feel like it's not necessary, where sometimes I'm like, I don't need to know everyone's backstory of how this person became this or whatever. You know, especially because like in the Wizard of Oz like movie, they have, you know, there's like a reason why they're there. I mean, not why they're the way they are, but you know, why they're in those spots that Dorothy finds them and whatever. But it is kind of interesting that you learn their backgrounds, and it's funny if like you've already seen Wicked where you get to like certain lines or certain parts, even though I didn't remember when it happens in the story. As soon as I heard the part with Fiyero of like, yeah, take him out to the field, I'm like, okay, it's like Scarecrow time. It's interesting the way they've showed that though, where it's like the one part of the movie that's in like black and white, which I felt was like a bit much. I don't know. Even the scene of them like killing him, it's kind of weird. I mean, I'm assuming the movie's like PG or something. Maybe this one's PG-13 due to like the sexual content, but I don't know. I thought that was a weird choice. Or something I didn't really like is that they show the ending like at the beginning of the movie, and they don't really hide it that well, and that bothered me. I mean, I already like knew that like Fiyero escapes with Elf, but I do like that they actually showed the impassable desert and everything of them there. But you literally see the shot of two people walking in the desert. I mean, Elphaba is like the only character that wears all black, so I think you can tell. And she even does in that scene too, which is funny to me because it's like, it's a desert, you're not going to want to wear black there. Do you see someone else with her, like someone that looks kind of blonde and wearing like the green jacket? The Gale Force jackets are funny to me because it literally has that like wheat pattern and everything. And even with like the posters for this movie too, they're not really trying to hide like who the Tin Man and the Scarecrow are supposed to be, and I found that funny. Like, even if I wasn't spoiled on like Twitter or whatever about like the designs of the characters, let's say I'd never seen the stage musical before, I feel like it would still be really easy to guess, and I don't know if it's like supposed to be, because like when you're watching the stage musical and stuff, you know, you're sitting down for those 2 hours, and if it's like your first time seeing it, you don't know about that stuff. You just think like, yeah, we're gonna get like the Wicked Witch's backstory or whatever. But yeah, the desert scene is funny when it shows up as one of Elphaba's visions, because it's like one of the only ones that's like super, you know, you get to actually see. It's weird because like the Dr. Dilliman vision of him in the cage was like crystal clear. The one where she sees the celebration is like on the side of Jeff Goldblum's head, and it's like kind of blurry. And then the one with the desert, I mean, they try to hide it and that they make the figures look kind of blurry, but I feel like it's still easy to spot. But the fact that they show that like almost immediately bothered me, because it's not really hard to like figure it out. And then, you know, or I mean, even if you just like ignoring Fiyero's the Scarecrow there, even if you just notice like, hey, there's someone dressed in all black in that scene, it's like, I'm trying to think, you'd know like, yeah, she's not gonna die or whatever, because they do try to hide that reveal of Elphaba in the inside the floor, which that was weird for me to watch because I'm used to with the musical where it's like the trapdoor thing and you actually get to like see it rather than the silhouette thing. I did think it was an interesting choice though of having Glinda in the closet, which my friend and I were making jokes about that, you know, because they sing For Good while Dorothy meanwhile is frightened in the cellar and everything, where they're having this like beautiful moment between the witch characters. I kept expecting them to kiss, but they don't, and I knew that, and I don't know, I'm a Gelfie shipper, so I kept hoping for it. And then, you know, then they're in the closet, or they put Glinda in there, and my friend leaned over next to me. We didn't actually really talk much during the movie, which is nice. I kind of expected us to a little bit. But she leaned over to me and she was like, she literally put her in the closet. We were both kind of laughing about it. But yeah, it's interesting that Glinda actually gets to see it happen, and we get to see her POV of the silhouettes where she does still think that like Elphaba dies. I mean, I like how they did it in that way, where Glinda doesn't get to see her under the floor, so it just looks like she dies. She only sees the silhouettes and everything. Like I said earlier, I thought I was going to cry, but I didn't. But the thing that got me, and it wasn't even that related to the movie, is there's this one shot where it's showing like Glinda it's like the side profile thing of like Glinda in the closet and Elphaba leaning against the closet door or whatever. But just that shot of like two people separated by a wall like that, in that way, where they both look so upset, instantly gave me flashbacks to the Doctor Who Doomsday episode that I remember watching when I was like 12, when I was watching Doctor Who for the first time, and that just emotionally broke me back then. So whenever I see some kind of resemblance of that, of like two people that are tragically separated by a wall like that with that kind of shot, it just gets me, man. I don't remember if I got like a little watery-eyed. I think I was getting like a little emotional, and I leaned in to tell my friend, or I was trying to a little bit, or I think I might have told her after the movie of like, oh, it wasn't the fact that they're separated forever and Elphaba's about to like quote unquote die, but it was the Doctor Who thing. I do explain it to her. But yeah, I thought that was interesting of having Glinda in there and getting to see it, and then she goes out and hugs the hat, and it's kind of sad because she hated that hat and now she just misses her best friend. But I thought they added, it was a little confusing on like how to interpret it, of like hinting to Glinda that like Elphaba might be alive, because like Chussery the monkey is there and hands Glinda the bottle, which I'm guessing is supposed to just be like a, hey, go confront the wizard. Doesn't this bottle look kind of familiar? Like the bottles is how she puts it together, of like Elphaba being the wizard's child, which I thought that was like a good scene, both that and her confrontation with Marble that I already talked about. But then at the end of the movie, the Grimoire opens for Glinda, and I'm assuming you're supposed to interpret that as like a now that Glinda is like the magic person in charge, and she like actually has to be able to do magic in order to protect everyone, and she wants to be good, and especially after Elphaba's sacrifice and everything, I'm assuming the Grimoire thinks like, oh, you're like worthy. I'm wondering if maybe that's the only reason it like decided to open for Elphaba and her being able to read it. I mean, I know there was that whole like prophecy scene in the first act and stuff of like, hey, the chosen one, and everyone thought the chosen one was like the wizard, and he like bullshitted it or whatever. But I was thinking maybe it's because Elphaba was the only person that did truly want to do good and wanting to do the stuff about the animals, especially because it happens, like the Grimoire opening for Elphaba, after she says the thing of changing her heart's desire from, instead of being about like, I don't want to be green anymore, to being about like, hey, I want to help the animals, and then it works and everything. I'm wondering if it's activated by like, if you're like a truly selfless person who wants to like fight for someone else's cause and stuff, and you like want to do good, that it's like, okay, you're worthy of magic. I mean, I'm choosing to interpret it that way, but it could also be like a hint to Glinda of like, hey, I'm actually still alive, because Elphaba was like the only person to be able to use the Grimoire. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting choice to add to. I'm like trying to think of like stuff they specifically added to the movie, but I like a lot of the changes, actually, like some of the three I mentioned. I felt like it gave more context to some of the characters and stuff. I just wish they could have added in some of the the cut scenes. I don't really know how many of those are from part 1 or from part 2, but I feel like with part 2 I would have been fine. I mean, I know I said the pacing thing, and I'm like fine with the pacing now for the movie, but I would have been fine. I almost do kind of wish it was 3 hours like the first one, and you could have added in like some of those cut scenes. I mean, I think some of the ones I'm thinking of were from the first part, but just adding in a bit more. I don't really know how to explain it exactly, but I feel like it just still is kind of missing something. Okay, I want to talk about the songs now that I've talked about characters and stuff. I feel like there is probably more I could say about this movie, but I feel like I'm gonna forget about it and just kind of drag this out while I like desperately try to remember, because that happens a lot with these reviews. My bad. Every Day More Wicked. I didn't remember that being the title, but that's like the first song, and it's kind of almost like a medley in a sense of like songs from like the previous movie, but with different lyrics and stuff. I thought that was pretty good because it's supposed to be similar to No One Mourns the Wicked, which I didn't really like that song. I mean, I love Glinda's part in it. I think vocally that's one of my favorite like Ariana Grande singing moments in these movies, but I don't really like that song. I think because of just how the Munchkins sound and the way certain words are like pronounced, just I don't know, doesn't feel right to me. But I don't really like that one. So then to hear it, but in the form of like Every Day More Wicked, where I think vocally it sounds better and it's instead like more of the main characters singing and kind of figuring out like a where are we now sort of thing. I thought that was better. I liked it more. I also forgot that Thank Goodness and Couldn't Be Happier were like one song. I'm trying to remember the lyrics to a lot of, I need to like look them up. Hold on. Because I'm like, just from the titles, like I kind of remember how they sound, but I can't remember what some of these are about. Oh, okay, so it's the song where Fiyero finds out that like Glinda and him are engaged and stuff. Oh, I did really like that scene actually. That I don't know if like there was music playing from the website I was on. I was trying to be careful with that. When, you know, she sings the song and then Fiyero pulls her aside or something, or she pulls him aside and they're talking privately about how they both want to save Elphaba, and Fiyero's like, why aren't you doing anything about it? And he calls her out and enjoying the spotlight, which is true. I feel like that is right about, you know, she is enjoying, you know, being everyone's favorite and stuff, but I feel like she also doesn't seem kind of know what to do and stuff. But I mean, she is in kind of a good spot for like what she can do of being the public figure. I mean, if she was trying to like take advantage of that and ruin things from the inside, that would be a good way to do it. That would be the best place for her. But she's not. She's kind of just trapped there as like Morable's puppet, so I guess she does kind of need to leave. But yeah, it's the song where she sings about how she couldn't be happier and how everything's fine, and I actually do like that one. I mean, like lyrically it's kind of it's like too catchy where it's kind of annoying to me, but I think it is interesting where it's kind of like No One Mourns the Wicked, where, you know, like Glinda has to pretend to smile and wave, but I mean with the first one I mentioned she's like mourning, and then with this one it's that she got everything she wanted, you know, she gets to marry Fiyero and she gets to live in the Emerald City, and she got all of her dreams to come true, but she's feeling miserable because like everyone is out there trying to kill her friend and everything. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, the intro scene with like Elphaba attacking the yellow brick road and stuff. I thought that was cool. I feel like it was kind of helpful to see that actually, of the yellow brick road being built, because I wasn't sure about like the time gaps between stuff, because it doesn't even exist like when they go see the wizard at the end of the movie, and they'd like been in school for a while. I'm assuming they were like finishing up school, you know, because they were like in like magic college or whatever, and then the road is like still being built and kind of like finishing by the time of the start of the next movie. But then, you know, it's definitely been some like years past where everyone's in their positions and everything, and then it ends up like getting built, and you know, then you have the whole timeline of like Dorothy's adventure, which even takes a while to start with like the tornado being summoned. So Oh yeah, the tornado effect was pretty cool actually. I forgot I remember that Nessa, is the one that gets crushed by the house and everything, but I forgot the reason why she's even out there in the first place is she's like trying to find Bach, which I felt kind of bad about. Like she does do some like shitty things to him, like the whole punishing all the munchkins by the travel permit thing just to take it out on like one person was pretty shitty. Anyway, No Place Like Home, that's one of the two new songs. I already talked about like Girl in the Bubble. Vocally, I think I like it better though, but out of the two of them, No Place Like Home I liked. I thought it was kind of interesting. Because she's explaining of like, because you do think like, yeah, everyone hates her and is trying to kill her, and she has the broom, she can just leave. Why is she deciding to stay? I mean, besides the wanting to take down the wizard and the animal thing, Oz is home for her, which does make me feel kind of bad that like at the end she has to go through the desert and I mean, she does choose to leave. Like she doesn't like Glinda help with her clearing her name or anything. She's just like, all right, it's time for me to go, especially because everyone's happy wanting her dead. She knows like that's the only way like kind of change can happen, I guess. But that's a nice song. I just feel like both of those songs weren't really, I mean, part two doesn't really have a lot of songs anyway. It's like way less than like part one, but I feel like those songs weren't really necessary. Like it is nice to have those contexts and perspectives, like they were okay, like placings and stuff. Well, I'm still not sure about Girl in the Bubble, but I feel like they weren't really nice to have, but weren't really needed, is my opinion. But like as a song, I think No Place Like Home was pretty good. It was kind of nice actually. I'm more appreciative of like the scene rather than the song. Of like, it was nice Elphaba getting to see Dulcie Bear again and actually getting to talk to the animals, because like she's fighting on their behalf and everything, but I feel like she doesn't ever really get to interact with them or talk to them to see their perspective. I feel like them and their plot line, even though that's like why Elphaba's out there fighting for them and stuff, is kind of minor compared to like everything else going on, especially because there's so many things happening in the second half. The Wicked Witch of the East is Nessa's song. That one's pretty good. I like that she's like crying at the end of it too, where besides being upset about Bach and she's realizing like everyone's Okay, so I don't remember where I left off, but this is already an hour and my phone is going to die soon. So I'm going to keep it moving through the songs. And then I'll continue. I just paused this for a minute because I got a call from my brother, and then I got to complain about the movie for a little bit. I think I was talking about the Wicked Witch of the East. I don't remember. I think I was saying of like how Nessa gets so upset in that, but it's nice that she finally gets a song and sings about how like, she gives herself the Wicked title. I don't remember if Bach or anyone else had given it to her too. But yeah, that one was good. And then there's Wonderful, and that's one of my favorites because it sounds so just like catchy and fun, and I like the way like visually it's shown in the movie as well. And I mean, I feel like part of the reason it's so like fun sounding too, I mean, that's kind of how the Wizard songs sort of have this like Broadway tune kind of style to them that doesn't match with like the rest of the songs, but I feel like it fits with the whole thing of like him being this old guy and being like this con man that is trying to make people smile or whatever. And I feel like, especially instrumentally with how whimsical I guess some of his songs sound, I feel like it fits the character. But Wonderful's just so catchy and like joyous sounding, even though it's like him trying to convince Elphaba to join his side, which isn't really a good thing and stuff. It's just really fun to listen to, and I think I heard it on like a YouTube ad and it like got stuck in my head ever since, and I avoided listening to it in the soundtrack before I saw the movie, partially because I was like, okay, I don't want to listen to this anymore. It was like already in my head, like I was literally humming it as I was like getting ready to go. But also because I wanted to kind of really experience it like with the movie and stuff. But yeah, it's catchy, it's pretty good. I like the part when Elphaba and Galinda, they're on the like swing thing with the pink and green lights. I thought that was cute. I think I remember that from like the trailer or something, but I didn't know what the context of it was. Actually, before I even saw like the YouTube ad, I completely forgot Wonderful was a song in here, the context of it or anything, so it was kind of like a nice surprise. And then I love the part when the wizard, Glinda and Elphaba are like holding hands when it's like towards the end of the song and they're all swinging around. I really like the camera work with that, where it's like you're seeing the perspective of each of those characters staring at the other people as they're spinning, and everyone's like full on smiling, which is kind of nice. Like I was surprised even Elphaba smiles. I guess she's probably relaxing, thinking of like, you know, the wizard will keep his promise of like helping the animals and it'll be fine, you know, because then she wouldn't really have anything to fight for anymore, because that was like her whole cause and whatever. And it's kind of a nice moment that gives like a sense of hope of like, hey, maybe things will be okay. She finally got to like talk to the wizard, they can like work something out, but you know, of course that doesn't happen. I keep thinking about Glinda and particularly smiling and stuff. It's like a different kind of smile, you know, because she's like the kind of person that squeals a lot and smiles, but a lot of her smiles are very forced. Like it's the same kind she has as a kid too, where it's like a closed mouth smile where it looks like she's kind of just forcing it on her face. But then during that song, when you see her smile, she has like this big, very natural smile. Like for once in her life, she's like genuinely having fun, which makes me feel like she doesn't even look that happy, like that level of happiness, even during like the song Popular or anything, where she's like running around and singing and stuff. Which just makes me feel bad for her, because I keep thinking about her like sobbing face, or not really like sobbing, but like you see the tears and stuff when she's hugging Elphaba's hat at the end. But yeah, that song's like a whole fun moment. I feel like I could probably just like watch even just that part of the movie again and I'd be good. Heck, maybe even on rewatches I might just stop it there, like I said earlier. But I mean, the rest of the movie's good too. Oh, I forgot that the I'm Not That Girl reprise. Yeah, I talked about the part where Glinda's in the wedding, but I like that they have the reprise of the song to show like now she is you know, not that girl of the whole thing of like she was never the one that was going to be with fear. I like that it's like an interesting change, like it's the same song but sung by a different character, so it has a different, like the lyrics are the same but has a different meaning at that point. I mean, I know that's the whole thing with like reprises, but it's more of like Glinda coming to that realization of now she's not that girl. And then we get As Long As You're Mine, and that one was one of the only songs, as I was listening to some of the ones from the original show. I can't remember if it was like before or after I had watched the first movie, you know, like Wicked Part 1. I sometimes worry if I say the first movie, it comes off as like, oh, the first ever Wizard of Oz movie. You mean The Wizard of Oz, but no. Anyway, that song was always one of my favorites. I think my two before I had seen Wicked, and you know what? I think they're still two of my favorites. Or two or three, I guess, is Popular. I listened to that so much when the first movie came out. But yeah, Popular, Dancing Through Life, and As Long As You're Mine. Which it kind of sucks that like Jonathan Bailey only gets like one song per movie, because I think he actually sings pretty good. I don't feel it as much with As Long As You're Mine, but definitely with Dancing Through Life. I think Dancing Through Life and Popular and like with Wonderful, all these ones I'm like specifically mentioning, I'm realizing like, oh, these are like the really happy sounding songs. No wonder some of these are my favorites. But I've always liked As Long As You're Mine. I think it's a good like romantic duet. I feel like with a lot of romantic songs, they can sometimes sound, I mean, I know with musicals they'll be very like slow paced and stuff, but I like, it has this sort of like darkness to it. I don't know if that's like the right word. I think because it's supposed to be like so sexual with like the scene and stuff, it's kind of interesting as like a romantic duet song, but I think it's really good. I mean, I feel like some of the lines are like a little cringe, just like a teeny bit. I don't really like the part at the end where Elphaba says like, oh, now I truly feel wicked. Or, I mean, I guess it's supposed to be like a joke with the characters in the song. Like there's a part Elphaba laughs at when Fiyero sings the line about you've got me under your spell or whatever. Like some of it's like a little cheesy, but I still think it's a good song. I think it's a good scene. I'm kind of glad I listened to it before I watched the movie, because I remember I was like sitting in my bed. I don't think I was even like scrolling through my phone or anything, but I was just listening to the songs and I had the lyrics up or whatever, and I remember I kind of like blushed a little when I got to that one. I had to pause it, and I was like fine or whatever, but I was like, okay, I gotta wait till I watch the movie. And then I sat there and I watched the scene in the movie and I was like, fine, you know, I didn't like overreact or anything. One of the other memes, because I mentioned about the scarecrow thing, was the quote-unquote sex cardigan, which is such a funny term to me. The lingerie that Elphaba wears, that I wonder where that comes from, because I think it's like the one time we don't see her wear like black or anything, but this time she's wearing gray. Of like, where the hell did she get that thing? Because she's in the middle. I mean, I know she can go anywhere. Like she visits the Emerald City at one point, but she's spending most of her time like in the woods. There isn't even really like animals there or anything. Like, where did it come from? But I do think it's like an interesting choice. I know people complained about it, of like, that's your like sexy lingerie or whatever, but it looks very cozy, very comfy, because I know it's supposed to be something she's wearing where she's like showing vulnerability and stuff, and I think it works, honestly. Like I've never really been in those situations or whatever, but you know, it sounds like it would be nice to wear something comfy. I mean, they're doing it where it's like it's nighttime, it's probably cold over there, because they're like, she lives in a tree, but it's like exposed to the elements and everything. Yeah, I don't really have like, I don't personally view it as like it's like super sexy or anything, but I'm glad that it's not, because I feel like it kind of fits her character more anyway, where Elphaba's like someone that, you know, like Glinda's like her only friend, and she's used to kind of like being on her own or made fun of by people, and you know as you're watching it, like it's her first time being like intimate with someone. She's probably nervous of having to get to be vulnerable with I mean, she's like into it and everything, and like with the lyrics and stuff, but you know, I can imagine you want to be like comfy with that. She wants to, you know, feel relaxed, so I feel like it fits, but that's just me. But I do find the name for it just funny, especially because I went to a Target after I finished the movie with my friend. We found a sweater that looked like it, but it was white, but it was under like the Wicked like label on the tag or whatever, and I was like, hey, we found this cardigan or whatever. But yeah, good scene, good song. That's another one I could watch. The intimacy of it was kind of weird though, where I mean, I understand the movie is probably like, I don't know, like PG-13, whatever, so they can't really show much, but it's still just funny to me, because like, you know, Fiyero, he doesn't take off his shirt like in that scene, but it's in the next one, but it doesn't even really show anything, just like his upper, not even like his full upper body or whatever. But Elphaba has to keep the cardigan on like at all times or whatever. That part of it like felt kind of weird. I do find it funny though, the part where they end up like floating into the bed, that felt kind of cheesy too, but I guess it works. I don't know, but I mean, for two people where one of them, I think my friend even whispered to me during that, like once the scene was over, where she said like they're both queer, and I'm like, okay, like I don't know, that was just fun, you know, for two people where they wouldn't be interested. I mean, I don't know Cynthia Erivo's sexuality, but I know Jonathan Bailey's gay. You know, they sell it okay. Of trying to make this like intimate scene or whatever. Anyway, moving on from that, I know I like yapped about that a bit too long. No Good Deed. I forgot how much of a freaking banger it is. It's so good. I need to change the playlist it's on actually, but especially getting to see it in the like context of the movie and stuff, where you get to see the castle Elphaba's in, which I completely forgot how she got the castle, so I'm glad I got reminded of that in the movie, where she's with like the monkeys and there's like fire in the background for some reason, if I remember right. Like the sky turns like red a little, you know. It's a cool song where she's like, yeah, I'm not gonna do good anymore, you know. I mean, she's not like purposely trying to hurt people or whatever, but it's more of a, I'm trying to do good and every spell keeps going wrong, because a lot of shit goes wrong in the second act. But it's just like vocally it's such a good song too. I don't remember if that's the one where she like screams out fear or not, because that note and hearing that in the theater was just chef's kiss moment, you know. But yeah, that song was awesome. I need to add it to some of my playlists, but just the whole moment was really cool. And then March of the Witch Hunters, that one's also really good. I do think it's kind of weird though, of like, I get that Bach's angry at Elphaba, but the fact that he has to drag the lion into it, and it's like the way he acts around the Cowardly Lion as well, of just like shoving him into the crowd and not even letting him speak or anything, and being like, yeah, this is why he's freaked out, it's the witch's fault. I do like that he almost slips up, where he almost says like, oh, I'm going to kill Elphaba, and then he realizes like no one probably knows what her actual name is or whatever. Like even Madame Morrible ends up correcting Glinda on that, of like, no, she's like the Wicked Witch. Like they have to assign her to that title so hard that no one's trying to use her real name or anything. But yeah, that whole scene was cool, and the whole visual of like all of the characters down there, I couldn't really remember it for some reason, of like them, you know, Dorothy's party also being amongst the mob with the Tin Man leading. That's just something I was like thinking about throughout the movie whenever we get to like a Dorothy section, as I call it, which we didn't see much, you know, like when, but it makes me wish I could like hear some of the dialogue a little bit, or see, because, you know, these versions of the characters are very different from like the 1930s Wizard of Oz and stuff. But I think that is what's cool with Wicked, of like, once you see, you can recognize where the Wizard of Oz parts are, and then the story, you know, continues where you get to see the characters interact, because it's like from their perspective and not Dorothy's. I think is pretty cool, but it like also makes me want to like see their stuff with like the Wizard of Oz sections, of, because even the part where Glinda says like, oh, bye Dorothy, bye Dodo, which I thought that was just a joke of like, yeah, that sounds like something Glinda would say. Apparently they can't use the name Toto either, but and then sends them on their way. I feel like that would have been really funny. And I do like that ends, and then that starts the scene where Elphaba just shows up and then starts fighting Glinda. That whole scene was really funny, actually. That, I feel like the Wicked Witch laugh or whatever, I feel like that just feels so forced though. I don't like that part. But what was I going to say? But yeah, I especially wonder with Dorothy's companions and how that whole adventure, like, does it mean everything from the Wizard of Oz, like all the songs and stuff, also happens within Wicked as well, of like the Scarecrow and the Tin Man getting their musical numbers about not having a brain or whatever, and just the whole thing where it's like, you know, Fio's the Scarecrow now and is worried about Elphaba the whole time, and Dorothy just wants to freaking go home, and, you know, the lion also doesn't like Elphaba, is like afraid of her, and the Tin Man like literally wants to murder. Just the idea of like Fio and Bach as like the Scarecrow and the Tin Man in the same party for this whole little adventure, and being forced to like travel together is just really funny to me. like I'm assuming Fira wanted to go to the city, the Emerald City, probably to like, you know, find Elphaba and stuff. Because that's like a weird thing to think about, because like with the original it makes sense of like, you know, with the Wizard of Oz of like they want a brain, they want a heart, whatever, but like once you see the characters in Wicked, it feels weird of like, why are they asking for such ridiculous things, or whatever. Or like with Bach, I guess I partially understand of like his heart literally shrunk and he's like heartless now, and it's like, okay, that sort of makes sense. And it also, I like the whole thing of him becoming literally heartless means that he's like mean now, and like very unhinged. But like the Scarecrow wanting a brain, like Firo's pretty smart already, and I mean, I don't know what happened to his brain when he got turned into a Scarecrow, because we don't get to see. I find that interesting, actually. We don't even get the reveal of him as the Scarecrow or anything until I think the characters put it together or whatever, because I noticed they show the lion, they show the Tin Man, and they do the thing with Dorothy where they don't show her face. They don't show the Scarecrow's face either in like any of the shots. Like you see him in the crowd, you see his legs or whatever. I guess probably to hide that he's Firo. I don't remember if it was like that in the stage one too. I gotta see it again at some point. I don't remember. But then they have his like face reveal at the end when he goes to rescue Elphaba, and it's like the big moment. I think I was actually okay with that though, because then, you know, I'm not sure if she knows he survives. It's kind of confusing with like the characters kind of secretly sending messages to each other throughout the plot. Like there's a part where she sees Firo's jacket, and I assumed it was him sending a message of like, hey, do the thing with the water and like fake your death and we can like run away together, is what I'm assuming it was. But then she sees his jacket and Glinda wonders if it's like a sign of like, oh, is he still alive? I mean, Elphaba knows about the spell and stuff, but like how would she even know if it like worked or anything? I don't know. I feel like it's one of the reasons I probably have to watch the movie again at some point. I feel like I'll probably understand things and kind of look more clearly. Oh, speaking of looking, I keep thinking about, I talked about the Scarecrow makeup and I forgot to mention about the you know, because there's that line in As Long As You're Mine about the different, looking through different eyes. I'm a little disappointed that the movie took that literally, where like, and maybe it's like the different actor thing, I don't know, where like as Firo has, Jonathan Bailey has like the blue eyes, and then the Scarecrow gets, as the Scarecrow, they get turned to brown, because I thought that line was just like metaphorical, and it's kind of weird I mean, I know it's like different actors playing these characters compared to like the Wizard of Oz, but I remember the Scarecrow actor in the Wizard of Oz had blue eyes already, so I didn't think they'd need to change anything, and I thought, you know, blue eyes for the Scarecrow was fine. I don't know if it's like specifically brown picked as maybe like a, you know, it's like an earthier color that would go with the design of the Scarecrow. Like it looks fine, but that was such like a weird choice to me. I don't know. What was I going to say? I've also been seeing memes. I keep seeing so many memes about the Scarecrow specifically, of like how in the original Wizard of Oz, which I forgot about the last time I watched it, where he has the gun where they go to rescue Dorothy, and then the shots of Firo with the gun. You know, I think if there's any scene from the Wizard of Oz I'd want to see with these characters, I want to see the one where they go to rescue Dorothy, where the characters, you know, I'm assuming like as the Tin Man and the Scarecrow, like Firo and Bach, you know, are trying probably not to like fight in front of Dorothy, or they probably don't even know who the other person is, if I had to guess. I'm trying to think like how would they know. But yeah, I want to know what that adventure was like, or if they even care about Dorothy at all, is something I was thinking about. I mean, Glinda at least feels sorry for her, of like, hey, there's this little kid that just wants to go home that's running around and feels bad for her. But I'm wondering about her companions, if they, I mean, there's other stuff going on in the plot that they have to worry about, if they even care about Dorothy at all or whatever. But yeah, I'd want to see the part of them trying, the three of them trying to rescue her, because then they're forced to interact without Dorothy there having to like pretend anything. I think that could be interesting. I think that would be an interesting like cut of the movie or something, if they just, I guess what I guess it sounds like I'm asking for a Wizard of Oz remake, but the perspective of the Wicked characters. I mean, I know lately that people are making like comics about that and stuff. I keep seeing pop up, but I haven't read of like what is the travels like, because like the Wicked characters, you know, it adds so much more backstory and makes them more complex compared to like their Wizard of Oz movie. I can't say the book because I still gotta read it. Wizard of Oz movie like counterparts and stuff. It makes it interesting to think about. Like I'm not surprised there's so many, you know, with the Wizard of Oz, you know, as a sequel to the Wizard of Oz movie, of like different sequels and Wicked being a thing. I think there's just straight up a Wizard of Oz musical of just that movie. I mean, I know there's also The Wiz as well, which is one that I really like. There's like a different billion adaptations of like the Wizard of Oz you can do. Like Return to Oz is one of my favorites because it's kind of dark and creepy. But yeah, okay, I talked about this for an hour and a half. Oh, I forgot about For Good. I'll just mention about that really quick. I didn't really like, and I mean the song, not the movie. I didn't used to really like the song. I don't know. Maybe it just didn't hit with me. I think I like it more this time. I think it just kind of hit me more, maybe because like with Act 2 it always felt really rushed, and then you have this very slow kind of ending song or whatever. And I remember when I originally watched the stage musical, I just was trying to put everything together, but it was going so fast. But I think because with it as a movie, it has more like breathing room, I guess, and you can really soak in these scenes as they're happening. I feel like it makes that final song, yeah, especially because they added more scenes about like Elphaba and Glinda and the whole thing of like them being in the like the closet scene of watching her die and everything. I think just adds more to their like friendship and stuff, where I just feel like that final song about how they'll never see each other again also hits harder. And because I noticed they were both like crying during it too. Yeah, that was the thing I thought was going to make me cry, and then nope, surprisingly. But yeah, that's like pretty much my thoughts. There's probably stuff I forgot or skipped on because, you know, there's so much happening in that movie and stuff, because it's like much darker than the second act, and characters being turned into different characters and more magic consequences and whatever. And there's still things I'm confused about, like I said, or things I have to go back and watch for. I think the biggest thing I'm curious about was the Grimmery thing at the end of what it's supposed. I feel like one of those interpretations I mentioned is probably right, of either like a hey, I'm alive from Elfie, or Glinda being worthy of the magic. I feel like it's probably going to be one of those things that's like open to interpretation or whatever. But yeah, okay, I think I'm just gonna end it there. I know there's like something I'm forgetting, but oh yeah, I am. Okay, sorry, last thing. They recreate the beginning again, and I like that, like the very first scene from the first movie, that it looked like Glinda was going to try to clear Elphaba's name, and then she gives this face like it looks like she changes her mind about something, and then says the thing about the animals, and then all the animals show up, and the whole scene of like the animals getting to go back to Oz was kind of nice. I wish we saw more of the characters' reactions, because like the Munchkins looked happy about it. I don't know if they even cared about the animals or any of that happening. Probably not. Or if they even like noticed, because they were so focused on like the Elphaba witch hunt thing, which I know was like the goal of Morrible and the wizard anyway. Did they even make the animals into spies? I just assumed that was like a lie to Elphaba, and then they had all those other animals that were in like they had the monkeys working for them or whatever, but they had all the other animals like in cages. Like what were they even gonna do with them at that point? You know, I assumed they were gonna be like killed or something, but I don't know. But yeah, the freeing of the animals was nice, and I find it kind of funny that the two friend characters that, you know, were added to be like Glinda's friends are the ones that end up opening the doors for the animals, and the fact that like all her classmates go to work for her at the Emerald City like after they finish school or whatever. It's kind of weird to me, but also kind of funny. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna end this here, but I know there was like an hour and a half. That was already almost as long as the movie. I didn't mean to go on for that long, but I was trying so hard to like remember everything. But yeah, I was worried about this one. I thought it was okay. There were some choices I thought were kind of like, why did they make these choices? Or, things I didn't really care for, but overall I was fine. It was really just like the pacing I was interested in, but I think I have more of an appreciation for like the second act and some of the characters because of some of the new things they added in, and just the fact that the pacing was better than the stage musical and stuff. It made it easier for me to understand because it's originally like in its original format, it's so fast, it's hard to figure out what the hell's going on. All right, bye bye.